sabrinasalvati.
All right. Happy Sunday, guys. Welcome to Sabby Sabs podcast. I'm your host, Sabrina Salvati. If you are new, I want to let you know that Sabby Sabs podcast is a part of Revolutionary Blackout Network. You can catch me there on Thursdays for the JB and Sabby show. And you can catch me here on Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and every other Sunday. Welcome back, guys. Shout out to everyone watching on YouTube, Rockfin, Twitter, and Rumble. And we are back up in this piece. And I do want to go ahead and respond to Red's message here. We need a Sabby freestyle to the new music. If you know someone that can freestyle, I cannot. If you know someone that can freestyle for like 1 minute, hit them up and let me know because I can't rap. I cannot rap. But what's going on, guys? I got to tell you, let me share something with you really quick. I'm going to do this new thing called Movie of the Week because I like to watch a lot of movies. That's like my big thing is movie night. And I saw a movie last night. It is hilarious. So the movie of the week that I want to shout out this week really quickly, I'll go ahead and share it with you. It's on Netflix. So if you have Netflix, you can see this movie, but it's called Thanksgiving. And it just... Thanksgiving, there will be no leftovers, you guys. It's supposed to be a slasher style flick, horror flick, whatever you want to call it these days, whatever genre you want to put this in. But it's really funny because it's almost, in a way, it almost seems like they're making fun of horror movies because they use a lot of the typical, I don't know, cliches like throughout the movie. I think if you live in the Boston area, you definitely need to watch it because it takes place in Plymouth, Massachusetts, of course, right? And there are certain things that they mention throughout the movie that are supposed to apply to like Boston or Massachusetts, but are 100% just wrong. Like the idea that they have a sheriff style police that, you know, is in charge of law enforcement in Plymouth, Massachusetts. So that's 100% false. We actually don't have sheriffs that actually police in Massachusetts. Sheriffs that we have here are responsible for like the prison system, but they don't actually. So that was one of the first things I think like we caught was like, we don't have that here in Massachusetts. And also it's kind of funny to hear like actors try to do the Boston accent because it's one of the hardest accents to portray. And people just, they always get it wrong. Like they overdo it or they try to use words like party and car and over again. And just so they can try to get that Boston accent, but they overdo it. And it's hilarious. So if anything, if you want a good laugh, check it out. I know it's not Thanksgiving, but check it out because it really made me crack up. I don't want to tell you too much about it because I don't want to give the movie away. But the movie of the week that I recommend watching if you're into slasher fix, but you want to laugh because it's just ridiculous and over the top, that would be this movie here, Thanksgiving, There Will Be No Leftovers. And surprisingly, they actually got, believe it or not, they actually got Patrick Dempsey. Remember, he was on Grey's Anatomy. He was Dr. McDreamy or whatever. They actually got him to actually be in this movie. And I was like, I can't believe they convinced him to do this movie. It's really funny, but check it out, especially if you live in Massachusetts. I think you'll get a kick out of it. Let's go ahead and give a shout out to Sabby patrons. Boy, that movie was cracking me up. Shout out to everyone who is a Sabby patron. I really appreciate your support. If you're interested in being a Sabby patron, I have 5 categories: Ultimate, Sabinators. There's also Sabsters. Don't forget about those Sabbies. And of course, members. All of their names are listed here. You can also see their names scrolling across the bottom of the screen there on the ticker. Thank you guys so much. Really appreciate it. Yeah, that movie has just been cracking me up, man. I'm still laughing about it. Like when I see people try to do the Boston accent, I'm just like, don't, just don't. Don't do it. All right, guys. Oh, I forgot to put up the thumbnail. Sorry about that, guys. We have quite a bit to discuss today. I will tell you that much. I can't believe I put up the movie thing, but I forgot to put up the thumbnail. Let's go ahead and share that beautiful thumbnail so you can see what we're discussing tonight. Should be a pretty interesting show for you guys. What are we talking about tonight, ladies and gentlemen? Tonight, we are discussing Max Blumenthal exposes the State Department, and you'll see the gentleman in the picture there behind Max Blumenthal. You've seen his face multiple times if you've been watching these press conferences from the State Department. But Max really nails him here when he makes certain comparisons. We'll get into that story. We're also going to discuss CANDACE Owens versus Tiffany Haddish. And all I got to say is, honey, read the room. Read the room, Tiffany. Read it. You know, and it's rare on this show that you'll hear me agree with Candace Owens. I think I've only done it one other time, and that was in reference to the genocide happening in Gaza. But I do agree with her here. I don't know what Tiffany is thinking, but we'll get into all of that. Of course, we're also going to discuss the South Carolina GOP primary results there between Nikki Haley and Donald Trump, and what I think is going to happen from here. And last but not least, we are going to discuss, this is a newbie, Israel's role in the Congo. I haven't discussed that on this show. And I'm also going to make a connection here about what it means to be an oppressed group, and actually how that actually is connected to the workers' movement. So we're going to make a big connection here between what Israel has done to the Congo and what Israel has done to the Palestinian people in Gaza. It's not just about Gaza. That's important for people to understand. All right. Start us off right. Hit the like. Do the damn thing. And we'll go ahead and dive in. So I want to start with this story about Israel and the Congo, because someone sent this to me and I found other research about it as well. And I think there's a part of the Congo, of course, we talked about the genocide in the Congo on the show as well, but there's something else that has happened in the Congo that Israel is directly responsible for. And I don't think a lot of people know about that. In fact, this was shared with me recently. So let me go ahead and bring this up here. There was an article here. It was shared on LinkedIn, and I try to zoom in as much as I can. There we go. And I want you to pay attention to this picture. So on the left-hand side, you'll see these are Congolese here in the mines, right? So a lot of the resources are here, digging and working in the mines. And on the right, you'll see there's a picture here of two Congolese children, and you'll also see all of these diamonds, all of the diamonds. So let's get into this here. It's called Diamonds Drenched in Blood, Unmasking Israel's Role in the Congolese Crisis. This is very important, guys. In the heart of Africa, let me see, I'll make it bigger. In the heart of Africa, where the earth is rich with diamonds, lies the Democratic Republic of the Congo, a land steeped in beauty and turmoil. This nation, endowed with vast natural resources, has become a tragic illustration of how global greed and geopolitical agendas can ravage a country. The DRC's story is not just about its diamonds. It's a saga of exploitation and lost promises. The allure of these precious stones has attracted various international players, casting long shadows over the nation's sovereignty and the well-being of its people. The year 1997 marked a pivotal moment in this narrative as Israeli diamond businesses began penetrating the Congolese market. This incursion coincided ominously with a rapid destabilization of the country. By 1998, the DRC was plunged into a vortex of conflict and chaos, underscoring the disastrous impact of external economic interests and politically fragile regions. One thing I want to add here for those of you who are looking to get engaged, or you're going to propose to someone, when you decide to shop for a ring, it is very important that you ask the jeweler are these conflict-free diamonds. That is very important because you do not want to purchase blood diamonds. There are literally people in Africa that have been killed just to help mine these diamonds just so you can have a ring. So that's very important. And I want to go down right about here. The economic might and ethical paradox of Israel's diamond industry. Israel's foray into the Congolese diamond industry marks a significant chapter in its economic narrative. Since entering the diamond trade in the Congo in 1997, Israeli companies have carved out dominant position, contributing substantially to Israel's economy. So again, when we talk about workers and labor, you have the Congolese, mining these diamonds, obviously for either very, 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 very little pay or no pay. And Israel is actually profiting off of that. So again, you have the exploitation. It goes on to say here, as of 2016, cut diamonds accounted for an astounding 23.2% of Israel's total exports, making them the country's most significant export product and constituting 12% of the world's diamond production. The industry is not just a business sector. It is a powerhouse of national economic strength, bolstering Israel's standing on the global stage. However, this ascent in the diamond trade coincides alarmingly with the descent of the Congo into conflict and turmoil, raising critical questions about the industry's impact on the region's stability. And we're going to start right here, and then we're going to go into the video clip. Amidst this economic boom, the Israeli diamond industry continues to garner prestigious accolades and recognition at home, starkly contrasting the situation in the Congo. Industry leaders like Benny Mirov of IMD House of Diamonds are celebrated with high honors like the Israel Diamond Industry Dignitary Award, underscoring their esteemed status within the national economic fabric. These awards, bestowed among government officials and industry elites, symbolize the industry's esteemed position in Israel. However, this national pride and acclaim starkly contrast the allegations of the industry's role in fueling conflict and destabilization in resource-rich nations like the Congo. This dichotomy paints a picture of hypocrisy, where the industry's prosperity and recognition within Israel are juxtaposed against the backdrop of the suffering and turmoil in regions from which these precious gems originate. As I said before, there's exploitation happening somewhere. So when we talk about the Congo and we talk about what's happening in Gaza, when you look at both of those groups of people, they're both oppressed people. There is one country, or one state, that is actually benefiting from their oppression. So there is a connection here. And I want to show you a little bit more. Now, this video also was sent to me. It says how an Israeli billionaire plundered the Congo. Let's go ahead and get into this clip here.
A diamond dealer dug himself into a hole of corruption, controversy, and shady deals sparkling in the heart of the dark continent's richest country. Dan Gertler is an Israeli billionaire who struck gold, or rather diamonds, and made a killing from mining diamonds and other minerals in Congo, a land blessed with mineral wealth but cursed with insecurity and wars.
Pause. So here we have again another billionaire, right? That's exploiting workers. Let's go on.
The billionaire landed in DRC in 1997 and quickly became Congo's most powerful businessman, a notorious figure accused of human rights abuses, corruptions, bribery to officials to grease the wheels of his deals. He also used his close ties with the former President Kabila to secure lucrative contracts at the expense of the landlord, the people. The billionaire denied this accusation, claiming he invested in the development and welfare of DRC and that he is a victim of a political witch hunt. Then he sued anti-corruption activists, whistleblowers, journalists, and civil society groups. A group of 146 organizations condemned his lawsuit as an attempt to intimidate and silence them. By the way, 2 whistleblowers who exposed money laundering for him were sentenced to death in absentia, but the alleged money laundering was never investigated. His critics insist that he exploited the country's resources and people for his own gain, and that—
Pause. Let's go back to the headline of this article here. Fight over corruption and Congo's mining riches takes a turn in Washington. So again, we see more corruption, right? We see another billionaire. I told you, you got to follow the money, and this is all connected. Another person that was able to profit off of the exploitation of the workers working in the mines in the Congo. Meanwhile, Israel benefits and the Congo obviously suffers. I told you before about the resources that are along the Gaza Strip. I told you about, they said there's gas there. They said that there's oil there. There's other things, other resources that Israel can use. And I've said this before. They want the land. They want the people gone, and they want the land for their self. They want those resources for their self. Let's continue here.
Exploited the country's resources and people for his own gain, and that his action contributed to the instability and violence that have plagued the DRC for decades. In 2007, the Paradise paper exposed him for receiving a $45 million loan from Glencore, the world's biggest mining company, to help him seal a dodgy mining deal in DRC. In that same year, the US froze his assets and banned him from doing business with US entities. In 2020, he got a secret license from Donald Trump, to access his money and banks for a year. In 2021, the Biden administration revoked the license, stating it was inconsistent with the US foreign policy interests and values. In 2023, the US is considering dropping the sanctions. I guess now it is consistent with the US foreign policy's interests and values. Like I said—
Pause. So you want to see how both political parties contributed to this? So he said that Donald Trump was able to give him a pass, right? But then they said Joe Biden came in and actually overturned that and said, no, because you didn't actually, you actually didn't actually follow like the guidelines in reference to foreign policy. But then in 2023, while Joe Biden is still obviously president, he comes back and they make it so that he's still able. Hold on one second. I want to make sure. Dropping the sanctions. He's still able to have those sanctions dropped against him. Thus, he was not fully held accountable. Now, that happened under both parties, under the Republican Party and under the Democratic Party. This guy, had he not been a billionaire, or let's say even if he were a millionaire, if he were just a regular everyday person, he would have been held accountable. But you see, the system does not work for billionaires. It doesn't work in the way that it's supposed to for people who have money. And this is what I've said before. All these things are connected. This is another example why we continue to say that billionaires, no, they should not exist. If you are a billionaire, you do not become a billionaire without exploiting people along the way. And a lot of times people don't ask these people how they actually were able to gain their wealth.
With the US foreign policy's interests and values. Like I said before, if someone sits you down and explains to you the situation in DRC and you understand it, it means the person didn't explain it properly. The sad reality is that there are way too many players, national and international players in this crisis, who are benefiting from the instability, disorganization, and insecurity of the Democratic Republic of Congo.
That is very important for people to see and understand, because we have now, you see Israel. Well, when you look at the situation in the Congo, you look at the suffering that's happening in the Congo, you need to know that Israel had a hand in that too. And that's not being discussed enough. And I highly, highly ask all of you that are covering Israel and Gaza to please bring in the reference about the Congo. I think everybody is covering Gaza, But a lot of people have been silent about what's happening in the Congo. And you have to understand they're both connected. And even if they weren't both connected, we should still talk about the genocide that's happening in the Congo as well. But I want you to see how Israel is not just oppressing people in Gaza. They also had a hand in oppressing people in the Congo. Now, let's fast forward to the Palestinian people and a little bit of history, because yesterday we actually met at the Boston Public Library, the RBN Boston chapter. We had a discussion. We had a discussion about how what's happening in Gaza is connected to the workers' movement, an international workers' movement. And I'm going to bring that to your attention in just a second. But first, I want to go over a little bit of history in reference to Israel and Gaza, because there's some things I think you need to see, especially when it comes to how the Palestinian people initially tried to protest and tried to basically hold Israel accountable for some type of equality. And that is without Hamas. And this is oftentimes not mentioned as well. Here we go.
To understand current events regarding Israel-Palestine, it is essential to be aware of the history and context of this issue. Originally, the vast majority of the population in what is now called Israel had been Muslim and Christian. But in the late 1800s, zealots from Europe and the US began a movement called Zionism, whose goal was to push out this population in order to take over the land for a Jewish state.
This piece right here is incredibly important. And I've said this time and time again. At one point, you did have it so where Jewish people and, Palestinians, like they lived side by side. It was Zionism that came in and started to say, we are going to push the Palestinian people out and we're going to have a Jewish state only. So again, when we have these talking points, it is very important that when we're pushing back on people with some of the Zionist propaganda that is said to us, we always got to go back to the history and let them know that we are well aware that at one point, Jewish people and Palestinians actually lived side by side. It was Zionism that came in to change the game.
For decades, this was a fringe movement, as most Jews around the world, including in the region itself, did not support it. Experts in the U.S. State Department and Pentagon opposed it, saying it would cause bloodshed and harm to the U.S. Eventually, however, this movement succeeded. In 1948, Zionist forces expelled hundreds of thousands of Palestinian Christians and Muslims and confiscated their land and property to create a Jewish state.
Now, notice that they said that most of the Jewish people who were there were actually against it. They did not want Zionism. So you need to ask yourself, if the majority of the Jewish people who were there did not want it, how was it allowed to happen anyway? Right? So again, that reminds me of direct democracy. What I talk about in the United States, how the only way we have direct democracy is through the states, the ballot initiative states. On the national level, we do not. Right? So you have to ask yourself again, how was that allowed to slide through if the majority didn't want it?
Which they decided to name Israel. Israel was now established in 78% of what had been mandatory Palestine. Then in 1967, Israel launched another war and conquered what was left of Palestine, the West Bank and Gaza. This is illegal under international law.
Pause. So here we go with this statement again. What happened here? The settlements, right? So the first picture, the white part of the map here, those are Jewish settlements. The green part is the Palestinian land. And you can see what happened over the years. That was 1947. Here's the UN plan, 1947, the UN plan. So they're a part of this too. Everybody remember that when you ask these questions, like, why is it the UN is not doing more than they could? Remember, they were a part of this too. Their plan was for the Israeli land, again, to take over about this much part of Palestine. In the second picture, you'll see the white part. That was supposed to be the Israeli land. And the green portions here were supposed to remain the Palestinian land. In 1949 to 1967, you can see, once again, this is where more of the settlements start to pop up. So this is actually going against the plan that the UN had. So Israel did what they wanted to do anyway. They have been doing this since then. Nobody stopped them then. That's why they're continuing to do it today. And then we fast forward to present, and you see these little green specks here, the West Bank and Gaza, and you can see what is actually left of the Palestinian land. Let's go on.
By the way, during that war, Israeli forces tried to sink a U.S. Navy ship monitoring the conflict, killing 34 American servicemen and injuring 174. Israel has now turned the West Bank and Gaza into open-air prisons, controlling all entrances and exits and invading at will. Every day, Israeli soldiers invade Palestinian villages, beat and abduct Palestinians, including children, and destroy Palestinian property.
Every single day. So when people tell you this all started October 7th, no. This started 1947. We got to go all the way back. And before October 7th, they were still beating Palestinian children. You saw the pictures, you've seen the videos multiple times before. They have been harassing these people. They've been assaulting these people for decades. So what you have to understand is that these people, because they've been occupied, because they've been oppressed, this is how a group like Hamas begins to form. Because when you're occupying the people under international law, they have a right to resist. They have a right to armed resistance. So it's always important when we get these Zionist talking points thrown our way from people like Rabbi Shmuley and Michael Rappaport and his crazy ass. When you get those talking points from those people, the way that you defeat them is by knowing the history. And once you start telling the history, this is when they'll try to overtalk you because you're starting to tell the truth. You have to dial it back. You have to pull it back from October 7th and start with how this all began in the first place.
Israel has blockaded Gaza for 14 years, causing malnutrition in children, huge unemployment, and desperation. 70% of Gazans at least are refugee families pushed out by Israel in 1948, their ancestral homes and land stolen by the new Jewish state. Finally, in 2018, Gazans began a mass Gandhian-type march for their rights. Israel responded by deploying snipers, and it began shooting demonstrators during their weekly protests for over a year.
Pause. Okay. 2018, they decided to protest peacefully. And how did the IDF respond? They began shooting them. So when people tell you that they didn't have a right to resist, I just want you to remember they tried to do things the peaceful way. They tried to peacefully protest. Imagine if we were peacefully protesting in the streets and all of a sudden the president sent in the National Guard and they just started shooting everybody. Put yourself in their shoes. Now, some of you say that this is not our issue because it's not happening in this country. You have to remember that the U.S., the police that we have in the United States, are trained by the IDF. They use some of the same tactics. Where do you think the chokehold came from? When you look at the way that George Floyd, that Derek Chauvin, the way that he went after George Floyd when he put his knee on his neck, where do you think that came from? So it's only a matter of time, people, and I've been trying to signal the alarm for this. What they did to the Palestinian people in 2018 when they were peacefully protesting, who's to say there won't come a time in this country where the president won't tell the police to do that to us? You may think it can't happen, but we thought a lot of things couldn't happen. So the Palestinian people are oppressed people, just like the Congolese people are oppressed people. Both of them have been oppressed by Israel. Now we need to look at some numbers, because these are the numbers that mainstream media isn't showing you. It's called If Americans Knew. And I want people to know. Let's get into it. Check this out. For people who say that Palestinians are pampered, like RFK, daily U.S. aid to Israel and the Palestinians. During the past fiscal year, the U.S. is providing Israel with at least 10.7 million a day. You can see Israel is here in the blue and Gaza, Palestinians here is red. in military aid. They've been providing 0.73 million per day in foreign aid to the Palestinians. So stop it with this phrase that the Palestinians are pampered. You see where most of the aid is going. Let's go to the numbers in reference to Israeli and Palestinians killed. That was September 2000 to present. Check this out. 2,720 Israelis have been killed. Again, they're the blue bar here. But over 39,617 Palestinians have been killed. You see this? You see it? Okay. I'm showing you the disparities for a reason. Even when we talk about the rocket attacks, 34 Israelis were killed in Palestinian rocket attacks, and over 15,000 Palestinians have been killed in Israeli airstrikes since September 29th, 2000. These are the things that people need to see. When we talk about the children, Israeli and Palestinian children, 179 Israeli children have been killed by Palestinians. 14,835 Palestinian children have been killed by Israelis since September 29th, 2000. You can see the gap. You can see what happens to the group that's oppressed and occupied versus the one that's able to move freely and is getting a lot of aid from Western powers. Now, this is the one I think people may not know about as well. Current number of political prisoners and detainees. 103 Israelis are being held prisoner by Palestinians, while 9,000 Palestinians are currently imprisoned by Israel. You see, mainstream media isn't going to tell you this. So every time you see people on MSNBC or Fox News and say, return the Israeli hostages, again, you have to know how to push back on these talking points. You need to know that number, about 9,000 Palestinians currently being imprisoned by Israel. Let's go on. I was going to show the workers. This piece right here. Israeli and Palestinian unemployment rates. The Israeli unemployment rate is 3.4%, while the Palestinian unemployment in the West Bank is 13% and 45% in Gaza. It is not uncommon for oppressed groups to have high unemployment rates. When Israel is the one that is in power, they're the occupier. They're the one that's controlling everything. How are the Palestinian people going to have a fair chance when it comes to the economy? This is why when we talk about having an international workers' movement, I continue to tell you that in order for that to happen, you have to also uplift the people that are oppressed. You cannot have an international workers' movement and just say, we're not going to deal with oppression. We're not going to deal with racial issues. We're not going to deal with any of that stuff. We're just going to focus on the class issue. And we're all going to unite together across the world. You cannot do that and have a successful international workers movement if you don't also uplift those that are oppressed. Because do you think the Palestinians here, with these unemployment rates of 13% in the West Bank and 45% in Gaza, if we have an international workers movement that's just based on class and we don't deal with the oppression issue, sure, all boats will be lifted. But if you don't think that the Palestinian people still won't be at the bottom, you are mistaken. If you don't think that African Americans still won't be at the bottom, you are mistaken. If you don't think that the Congolese still won't be at the bottom, you are mistaken. You have to do both at the same time. You have to uplift those that are oppressed, and you have to focus on uplifting those that are part of the working class and those who are poor. But you have to do both. Now, I wanted you to see this today because I want people to really understand what is happening, what Israel is really trying to do. They're not just trying to kill all the Palestinian people. They're trying to erase the history, the culture altogether. Look at this video. about what Canada is trying to do. Check this out. Everybody needs to see this and hear this.
You're not allowed to be from Palestine anymore. They're erasing the Palestinian identity. This is my grandma's current Canadian passport. It says she was born in El Bassa, Palestine, but it expires this month and she's trying to get it renewed. According to the government of Canada, on her new passport, Palestine has to be removed and replaced with no country of birth. When you try to renew your passport in Canada, Palestine is not an option for a country in the drop-down list. Imagine being 90 years old and having your actual place of birth just erased from your identity. This is cultural genocide. Please make sure as many people see this as possible, so the government of Canada has to change this policy.
They're trying to erase all existence of the people and the culture and the history all together. And it's really interesting considering the fact that other countries have decided to rise up and push back against Israel. And that includes people like Lula. He spoke out against what Israel was doing to the Palestinian people. And of course, people like Netanyahu says that he's a liar and he was in prison, so you shouldn't believe him. Well, Lula has decided to double down. And we need more leaders to rise up and do the same thing. You know, our government officials don't have the courage to do this in the United States because they're in Israel's back pocket. Anytime you have congressmen in Congress that are allowed to wear an IDF uniform and there's no pushback and no one tells them that that's treason or they're a traitor, but you can't have a Palestinian flag outside your office, our Congress, our government is bought and they are in Israel's back pocket. But Lula is not backing down. He is not afraid of Israel or Netanyahu. Listen to this. What the Israeli government is doing to the Palestinian people is not war, it's genocide. Because they are killing women and children. Read the interview I gave in Ethiopia. Read the interview instead of judging me. Based on what the Prime Minister of Israel said. It's a genocide. There are thousands of children dead. Thousands missing. Sorry, I didn't want to miss that part. It's not soldiers who are dying. Women and children are dying inside the hospital. If it isn't genocide, I don't know what it is. When people push back and they say that this is war. This is what happens in war. You don't hear about soldiers being killed. They're killing civilians. But I wanted you to see this. I wanted you to understand that Israel is not just oppressing the Palestinian people. They're also oppressing the Congolese people as well. And they've been profiting off of it all this time. So please, I beg of you, all of you in independent media that have been covering Gaza and the West Bank, I beg all of you to also make the connection between the Congo and Israel as well. Because people need to see that Israel is becoming very dangerous. They're not just trying to do this to one group of people. They're also trying to do this to people in Africa as well. And this can spread. It's very dangerous. Thank you for the super chat. Sparky says, denazify Israel. Thank you, M. Smith. Lab created diamonds have been around you since the 1980s, but they aren't valued the way diamonds that contribute to human suffering are. That's a good point there, M. Smith. And thank you for this. I wouldn't trust a jeweler to be honest about diamonds' origin. I think you can check this as yourself online as well, M. Smith. I think you can also check it yourself. Thank you, Carrie Scott. Greed of profitability, warped ideology, and philosophy of society beyond reality to a degree of irresponsibility and culpability is risky to agree with me. Can't we see? No vacation, Jab Nation. My views are values. Thank you so much for that. And thank you for the super chat, Aaron. Sabby got to push back with the little black folks have our own problems we're dealing with, and they don't even F with us like that. I hate to see children killed, but they're not saying reparations for black people. Well, who's they? Because I don't think it's fair to generalize an entire group. I know during the Black Lives Matter protests, there were Palestinian protesters out there fighting with us as well in the streets. You can talk to people like Nick at RBN and he'll tell you who taught him how to get rid of the tear gas in his eyes. So who are they? And I get what you're saying when you say we have our own problems to deal with here. But the reason why we have our own problems to deal with here and the reason why we have those problems to deal with here is because the money that should be going to African Americans who are descendants of slavery for reparations, that money is going to Israel. This is why I want you to make the connection, because if the U.S. government can give Israel $3.8 billion a year, they can also give you reparations. That's how I look at it. Okay. We'll take the comment on Rockfin, Eric. Thank you. Thank you for the tip on Rockfin, Roger. Quick, someone create a machine that can take coal and put the equivalent of 3 billion years of pressure to it to create diamonds. Build a worker co-op around it. You kill 3 birds with 1 stone. You find another more cleaner use for coal. You can purchase diamonds without feeling guilty. Profit is democratized instead of it being used to exploit laborers by big time capitalists. Totally hear you, man. Totally hear you. We are moving on to our next story. I'm pretty sure you've probably heard by now, but the GOP primary in South Carolina was yesterday on Saturday. And as I predicted, Nikki Haley did lose, but she didn't just lose. She was slaughtered in her home state. I tried to warn people about this, but before the win, before Donald Trump actually won in South Carolina, he actually attended a Black Conservative Federation gala. So we're going to make fun of this for a bit, right? Because first and foremost, some of the remarks that he made at this gala, and two, where do you actually see who was actually in the audience at the gala? Now, this gala took place before Donald Trump won. Oh, that one was playing. Sorry. This gala took place before Donald Trump won, but you got to see this. This is just cracking me up. So one of the things I said before about Donald Trump is he has no filter. He has no filter. Listen to him explain why Black people like him. This is crazy.
And then I got indicted a second time and a third time and a fourth time. And a lot of people said that that's why the Black people like me, because they have been hurt so badly and discriminated against. And they actually viewed me as I'm being discriminated against. It's been pretty amazing. But and then I got indicted a second time and a third time and a fourth time. And a lot of people said that that's why the Black people like me, because they have been hurt so badly and discriminated against. And they actually viewed me as I'm being discriminated against. It's been pretty amazing. But
So first and foremost, what I've heard from people is not that they felt that he was being discriminated against, but they felt like it was a witch hunt. Okay, so there's that. And then two, this is another example of Donald Trump having no filter. There are certain things that we all kind of know. You know, everybody has that one friend. Don't you guys know that one person that has no filter and they say things in public that are really supposed to be either not said, or if you're going to say it, you say it behind closed doors. That's the thing with Donald Trump. He has no filter. So you hear what he's saying? You hear what he's saying? He's saying Black people like me because they feel like I'm being discriminated against. We don't feel like you're being discriminated against. But for Black people who do support Donald Trump and are upset about all of these indictments, it's not because they feel like he's being discriminated against. It's because they feel like it's a witch hunt. So I think context matters. I think that matters. Now, here's the funny part. That gala, the Black Conservative Gala in South Carolina, People are pointing out that most of the people that were there weren't even Black. In fact, Fly's sister posted this on Twitter. She said that was 100% not a group of Black conservatives. It was a room full of mostly white people. So let's check out and see who was there. And what's funny is they actually have the red arrows to show you who. So here's a black person here. There's a Black guy on the stage speaking. In this picture, though, you can see, yeah. So it's mainly it's mainly white people who are present at the Black conservative gala. And they have other pictures here as well. They got pictures of the entire room. Yeah, so you guys can see. Yeah, guys, so most of the people at this event are white, not Black. Interesting. Interesting. But nevertheless, of course, the election did happen. And Donald Trump did beat Nikki Haley in her home state of South Carolina, but he didn't just beat her. He actually destroyed Nikki. This is really bad when you lose your home state, but you lose it by this much. So you can see here, Donald Trump won by 59.8%. He received over 450,000 votes, gained 47 delegates. Nikki Haley won by gained 39.5%, over 298,000 votes. She gained 3 delegates. And honestly, people were still voting for, candidates that have actually dropped out of the race. Ron DeSantis pulled in 0.4%. Vivek Ramaswamy pulled in, or says less than 0.1%. Same with Chris Christie, Ryan Binkley, and David Stuckenberg. But obviously, this was the result. Donald Trump did win. But believe it or not, Nikki Haley is still staying in the race. Like, I know. You don't have to tell me, okay? I already know. She's still staying in this race. And that's why I wonder if she's going to try to pull some type of independent run here, or if she's just trying to stay in to see if Donald Trump is going to go to jail, and then she'll be a shoo-in, I guess, as the Republican nominee. I wonder if she's hanging on to do that. She obviously has enough money to continue to stay in. Usually by this point, candidates will start to run out of money, and so they have no choice but to go ahead and drop out of the race. But she apparently is still receiving donations, by the way. She has millions of dollars. She spent millions of dollars in South Carolina. But Donald Trump did win, and he went on to give his acceptance speech. There were some cheers. There were some boos. Let's get into it.
Thank you very much. Wow. That is really something. This was a little sooner than we anticipated. An even bigger win than we anticipated. And I was just informed that we got double the number of votes that has ever been received in the great state of South Carolina. So that's pretty good. So it's a record times 2. And there's something going on in the country. Some really great things are going on. You look outside and you see all of the horror. You see millions and millions of people coming across the border illegally. We don't know where they come from. They come from jails. They come from prisons. They come from all sorts of places that we don't want to know. They come from mental institutions and insane asylums. And we don't want that in our country. We're not going to stand for it. We're not going to stand for it. You have terrorists coming in. You have people coming in that we just can't do. Could sustain what's happening to the United States of America. No country. So we're going to straighten things out. The border is the worst it's ever been. You know, in 2016 we won, and we had a bad border. And I talked about the border a lot. Talked about it a lot. And so we're going to fix it. We're going to fix it. We fixed it very quickly. And in 2020, we couldn't talk about it, although we did get millions of more votes the second time. But now there's a spirit that I have never seen. We ran 2 great races, but there's never been a spirit like this. And I just want to say that I have never seen the Republican Party so unified as it is right now.
So what's really interesting is just how much Donald Trump is winning by against Nikki Haley in all of these states so far. So he says the Republican Party is unified. They're definitely not unified around Nikki Haley because, like I said before, the majority of the Republican base did not want Nikki Haley. The majority of the Republican base wants Donald Trump. And you can see that obviously from these primary races. So if I were Joe Biden, could you imagine Joe Biden on the debate stage right now? Like if the debate were this week, do you think Joe Biden would be able to handle himself on the debate stage against Donald Trump the way that he did in 2020? I don't think that he would be able to. I really don't.
Never been like that. And a big part of that is the people standing behind me. These are the biggest officials in South Carolina, but I say like the biggest officials in our country as far as I'm concerned. They're state figures, but they're national figures, and in the truest sense of the word, they love our country so much, and they want to see our country succeed and be respected again. Right now, we're a laughing stock all over the world. Our country is going to be respected again, respected like never before.
I don't know if the United States will be respected again. And I say this because I just saw an article earlier today that says about 30 more countries are asking to join BRICS. So, I think a lot of countries are not too happy with the United States. And I think they're tired of the U.S. Bullying other countries. So I don't know that the U.S. would be respected again.
So this is a fantastic evening. It's an early evening and a fantastic. So you can all go down and you can celebrate for about 15 minutes and we have to get back to work because the big date, Michigan's coming up. We're doing great. The auto workers are going to be with us 100% because they got sold out by this country.
So that was one part that he mentioned that I'm surprised people have not pushed back on, where he says that the auto workers in Michigan are going to be behind him 100%. The UAW already endorsed Joe Biden. So I don't know if, and like I said, I told you before, a lot of times these unions are paid to endorse a presidential candidate, but they've already endorsed Joe Biden. That being said, though, remember the president of the UAW did say that most of his members are not going to vote for Joe Biden. So maybe Trump will probably be able to go in and grab those votes, even though the endorsement went to Joe Biden. It'll be interesting.
Michigan's up, and we're going to have a tremendous success there. And then we have a thing called Super Tuesday, and I think we're leading 91-7 overall. If you don't mind, may I have the pleasure of introducing some incredible people? Because they stuck right from the beginning, from the very moment we announced, and they believe in make America great again. That's what they believe in. They believe in America first. We're putting America first. First of all, my family, Melania, Barron, Don Jr., and Kim.
So he goes in to thank family members, but we all know that's going to happen. That's actually pretty boring. But I think what you guys need to see is this, because he also shouted out Lindsey Graham. Lindsey Graham, of all people, also from South Carolina. Lindsey Graham, probably one of the most shifty, corrupt, warmongering politicians. And he shifted on Trump too. That this is what Lindsey Graham does. He just moves with the top. Who's popular right now? I'm gonna move with that person. He doesn't really have any firm principles. He just moves with whatever he thinks is going to, be the focus at that point in time. But he's a shifty mofo, okay? But he actually brings up Lindsey Graham, and the crowd is not feeling the lens. They're not feeling the Lindsey. And this is another thing too, because a lot of people say that, well, Trump didn't start any new wars. But he's still, in cahoots with someone like Lindsey Graham. People say that Trump is going to stand up to the deep state, but he's still in cahoots with someone like Lindsey Graham. Lindsey Graham is not going to stand up to the deep state. Lindsey Graham loves the deep state. Lindsey Graham loves war. He's a corrupt, bloodthirsty politician, and the audience sees it. Listen to this.
Another man, not a lot of people know him. He doesn't do too much television. He happens to be a little bit further left than some of the people on the stage. But I always say, when I'm in trouble on the left, I call up Lindsey Graham and he straightens it out so fast. And I'll tell you, no, remember.
So you see the crowd is booing Lindsey Graham. They don't like him. I don't understand how all these years, even when I lived in South Carolina, I don't understand how Lindsey Graham was continuing to win. I really don't. You hear the boos, boo, boo, boo. That's his state. So you have South Carolina turned on Lindsey Graham and they turned on Nikki Haley. Ay.
I love him. He's a good man. Come up here, Lindsey. Come up here, Lindsey. Come here.
Okay, are you ready? America, the nightmare you're facing is just about over. Help is on the way. This is the most qualified man to be president of the United States. And let it be said that South Carolina created the biggest political comeback in American history.
Notice he didn't stay up there too long because he was getting booed. Yeah, he's just not well liked. Now, as you know, Nikki Haley also had to give a speech about her loss. Let's dive into it. I just can't, man. This woman is cracking me up.
About you. Thank you. You know, I want to start off obviously thanking my family. I am so incredibly blessed. I was able to speak with Michael this morning. His support has been amazing. The kids have really stepped up, sometimes too much, but they have stepped up in a way that has made me so proud. I am blessed because I had the ability to actually go vote today with my mom. You know, and there's something very special with the fact that she was a lawyer in India and she was named one of the first female judges. And because of the times, she was never able to sit on the bench. But the fact that she could go with me and cast her ballot for her daughter as President of the United States was an amazing.
This is funny to me. Woo, you lost.
Thank my parents who taught me strength and grace. I want to thank Michael's parents who have been unbelievably supportive through all of this. And I want to thank my brothers and my sister and their families for always supporting us every step of the way. Thank you. I feel blessed tonight. I've felt blessed through this entire journey. Even when it's been tough, I haven't lost sight of that. I've felt God's strength and grace every step of the way.
Did you feel God tell you to drop out? Because I'm sorry, guys, that's bad. That's wrong. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It's always funny to me because, like, you know, down south, and especially like when I go, you know, to visit like family down south, it's like any like bad situation, like people will just start out with like, yes, I got hit by that car, but you know what? I feel so blessed. I feel so blessed. Yes, I just really do. And it's just kind of a thing that like people just kind of do. So yeah, I'm just wondering did she feel God tell her to drop out?
I'm blessed to have served the state that raised me. And I look forward to continuing to be blessed to serve the state that raised me, whether it's going and voting with my mom or whether it is being with our family. We're very grateful for the good people of South Carolina. Thank you. And it's a blessing to know that across our sweet state, everyone wants to bring back the America we know and love.
No, not everyone. If everyone wanted to bring back it's like you didn't just lose, like you were slaughtered, Nikki. Like he destroyed you, but you're going to say everyone wants to bring back the America that we love. If that was the case, you would have won. You would have beaten Donald Trump. Not everyone, just that 39% that voted for you.
That's the underlying message of what happened today. I want to congratulate Donald Trump on his victory. And I want to thank the people of South Carolina for using the power of your voice. No,
39% power.
No matter the results, I love the people of our state. I love what we accomplished together, and I love how we united during our worst challenges and tragedies. I've always seen our state as a family. Families are honest with each other. They say the hard truths. That's what I've done this entire campaign.
They said the hard truths to you because they basically told you their hard truth, which was that they didn't want you. Like that was the hard. Oh my God.
And that's what I'll do now. What I saw today was South Carolina's frustration with our country's direction. I've seen that same frustration nationwide. I share it. I feel it to my core. I couldn't be more worried about America. It seems like our country is falling apart. But here's the thing. America will come apart if we make the wrong choices. This has never been about me or my political future.
If it's never been about her, why are you still in the race, Nikki Haley? Why are you still like dragging this on when you've lost every state so far? If it's never been about you or your political future, what are you doing?
We need to beat Joe Biden in November. I don't believe Donald Trump can beat Joe Biden. Nearly every day, Trump drives people away, including with his comments just yesterday.
So let me say something really quick. You know she's revealing herself, right? Because the reason why Nikki believes that she can beat Joe Biden is because Nikki Haley knows she's going to get support from Democrats as well. Think about that. Some of the people who think Joe Biden's too old are going to vote for Nikki Haley. Some of the Democrat loyalists, you know, like the party loyalists or whatever, or the centrists or whatever, that they want to vote for the Democratic Party because they are Democrats. But at the end of the day, they realize that Joe Biden is just, his mental acuity is just, it's gone, right? And they know that Joe Biden cannot do another 4 years. Some of those people are going to vote for Nikki Haley. Some of those people like Robert Reich, I think would do that, right? He was the same one that was pushing Liz Cheney over a year ago. Like some of those same Democrats that said they would like to see Liz Cheney run or lead this country, I could see some of them voting for somebody like Nikki Haley if she was actually in the general. Because think about it. How would Nikki Haley beat Joe Biden if she doesn't even have the base of the Republican Party? Donald Trump has the base of the Republican Party. So that does not make any sense unless Nikki Haley knows that some Democrats are going to vote for her because they just don't want Joe Biden because he's too old, etc. And she'll probably get some more independence. Think about that for a second.
Today in South Carolina, we're getting around 40% of the vote. That's about what we got in New Hampshire too. I'm going to count it. I know 40% is not 50%. But I also know 40% is not some tiny group. There are huge numbers of voters in our Republican primaries who are saying they want an alternative. I said earlier this week that no matter what happens in South Carolina, I would continue to run for president.
Let me pause here for a second. So I just want to remind you guys, when I showed you the poll, some of the voters in South Carolina were still voting for people who dropped out. They chose Ron DeSantis, Vivek Ramaswamy. They chose those guys instead of supporting Nikki Haley. Think about that for a second. They would rather vote for people who had already dropped out. That's how much they did not want Nikki. Yikes.
I'm a woman of my word.
Child, it's like I'm sitting here watching, like, I don't know, a show on Lifetime or something. I'm a woman of my word. It's so scripted. It's so fake. So yes, Nikki Haley is staying in the race as she said she would. She is actually sticking by that. And it's really interesting here. I want you to hear what Joy Ann Reid had to say about Donald Trump winning South Carolina and why I think this is actually irrelevant when we look at the greater scheme of things. Listen to this.
Two questions here we've been asking in these early primary contests from the exit polls, and just wanted to get your read on these because we've talked about them a lot. I think they sort of serve as proxy questions in some ways. Number one, did Joe Biden legitimately win in 2020? That's one of the exit polls. Yes gets 32% of the folks voting in South Carolina, according to our exit polls. No gets 65%. So 2/3, 1/3 there. And then a question about if Trump is convicted, is he fit to be president? Should he face criminal conviction in any one of the outstanding 91 indictments he faces? You get, again, very similar numbers. Yes, he's still fit at 65. No, he's not at 32. Again, that's sort of 2/3, 1/3. What's your read on that?
Think about this for a second, guys. From the South Carolina GOP primary, 65% of voters at the exit poll said they would still consider Donald Trump to be fit for president if he is convicted. That is what Nikki Haley is up against. Think about it. Nikki Haley doesn't have indictments against her. And more people showed up to support Donald Trump in her home state. That's what she has to compete against.
Right. And I think that you can go back to what Steve was just saying about the makeup of this electorate. I mean, this is a, 92% white, overwhelmingly evangelical Christian primary electorate in South Carolina. And I think writ large around the country, that is the way they think. I mean, even among the independent voters, who are about, 21% of this electorate, it's like almost a 50-50 question as to whether President Biden is the legitimate president of the United States. That is what the Republican Party is now. It is a baseline condition of being a base Republican right now that you do not believe that the 2020 election was legitimate, You believe that Donald Trump is the rightful president of the United States. You believe that he's the most electable candidate. That's also in these exit polls, more so than Nikki Haley, which there's no empirical data that supports that. And you believe that he should be president regardless of whether he is convicted of a felony, which he very likely will be in the next month.
Two questions.
Okay, let me just say something really quick here about the white evangelical Christian population that she's referring to. So I understand that in reference to South Carolina. South Carolina is a part of the Bible Belt. That's what we used to call it. Like when I lived there, the people are like, this is the Bible Belt. You can find a church like everywhere, right? Like, so obviously there is more, churches there. There's more like religion, Christianity is more prominent in the Bible Belt than it is where I live in the Northeast, right? So to Joy's point, what she was saying, then what is to explain for the win that Donald Trump had in New Hampshire? Because New Hampshire is not, people in New Hampshire are not overly religious. I'll just keep it real. Yes, there are churches there, but it's not the Bible Belt. You get people from all different, all different walks of life, but they're not overly religious. So what is to explain for all of the voters who came out and voted for Donald Trump in New Hampshire? Because they're not all white evangelical Christians. Let me know. Look, I know peeps in New Hampshire. I know plenty of people that live in New Hampshire. That's what I'm saying. Let me know. How do you explain that one? It's something, man. It's something. Like I said, I get it with South Carolina, but with New Hampshire, nah. Nah. Let me go ahead to some of the comments here. And Eric, you can pull up the second part when you're ready. Denise says she won't go away because the Dems are propping her up. Yeah, and she's still receiving donations, by the way. Nikki Haley is still getting donor money. She spent more in South Carolina than Donald Trump did, by the way. Usually the candidate that spends the most is more likely to win, right? Thank you, Snork. Won't Trump pick Klobuchar as VP over Nikki? I doubt it. Amy Klobuchar might start throwing forks at people. Robert says Haley's still racking in a lot of donations. Some are from DNC donors covertly, they don't want a Trump win. There you go, Robert. Thank you, Perry. Bringing Lindsey Graham to platform shows that the whole Trump as outsider meme is phony. Thank you, Perry. Thank you. That is why I wanted people to see that. Thank you, Peter. They'll use a Biden lookalike to debate Trump. Does Biden have a stunt double? Thank you, Jojo. Didn't Russia add Graham to a terrorist list? I'm not sure. I have to check that, but that would be funny. Thank you, Brian. If you really want to know how Lindsey Graham feels about Trump, just go back to his appearance on The Daily Show in 2016. That's right, Brian. That's right. I told you he flippity flop. Thank you, Meteor Dreams. Which God? The one with 7 arms. Thank you, Flower Bro. Point of clarification, please. Robert Reich, sources? Yes. Robert Reich, I covered that last year on the show. He wrote an article for The Guardian. Google it. Wrote an article for The Guardian saying that he wanted Liz Cheney to run for president. He wanted Liz Cheney because he felt like the country had gone too far in both directions. Kid you not. He was clowned for that, by the way. Thank you for the super chat, Bucks. They lied to my mama. This video is being limited. I need your help, please. Okay, I'm assuming that's on YouTube. Maybe they put like an age restriction on it. Is that how they limited it, Bucks? Because usually that's how they'll try to limit it. But you guys can see this now, so you can check it out. And Casey said, Sabby, she's an accountant, though. I know. I'll take the comment on Rockfin, Eric, when you're ready. Thank you for the tip on Rockfin, Roger. South Carolina Republicans are booing Lindsey Graham. That makes no sense. If you don't like him, then primary him. I think Trump might have thought he found his VP running mate, but wanted to test the waters to see how his own home state feels about him. I guess it's going to be next, and it definitely won't be Vivek because he likes to shine too much. Oh, that's an interesting point there. Ladies and gentlemen, it's about that time. If you haven't had a chance to do so, go ahead and smash the like button. That helps me out with the algo. And if you are new, don't forget to like and sub and share. We're moving on to the next story. Tiffany Haddish has not been in the best of news, I would say, the past year. There was the lawsuit that was filed against her and comedian Aries Spears, basically claiming a film that they made, I guess, many years ago, was grooming children. So there was that lawsuit. From what I understand, that lawsuit has been dismissed. Then she received a couple of DUIs, and now she thought it would be a good idea to make this video about her bragging about going to Israel and looking to find a man during a time when Israel is killing Palestinian women and children by the thousands, right? She thought that this was a good idea to do this trip and to make this video. But you don't have to believe me. You can see so for yourself. Mint Press News said U.S. comedian Tiffany Haddish sets off to visit Israel. Some on social media are questioning whether her trip was paid for by the Israeli government. Honey, I can't make this up, so I'll let you watch this yourself.
On my way to Tel Aviv, then to Jerusalem, then I'm going to the Dead Sea and go and get me some. Gonna have some fun, yeah, it's gonna be great.
Okay, first, she says, listen to this, I'm gonna go to the Dead Sea and get me some.
On my way to Tel Aviv, then to Jerusalem, then I'm going to the Dead Sea and go and get me some.
So I do understand that Tiffany Haddish is Jewish, or she practices the Jewish faith. But don't you think this is not the time for this? Then I'm going to go to the Dead Sea and then I'm going to get me some. Do you realize what is happening right now? It's like, the timing couldn't be more worse. Like, read the room. Seriously, read the room. And I wonder too, because I questioned this. I said, did they put her up to this? Did the Israeli government say, Tiffany, this come to Israel, we'll pay for your trip and everything? And it gets worse.
Gonna have some fun, yeah, it's gonna be great. Then I'm gonna learn about the politics. Hey, see, I feel like I can't believe everything I see on the internet. I can't believe everything everybody's saying to me on the internet. I need to go see for myself. I'm one of those people. I'm sleepy as hell. I'm about to be asleep this whole flight. I've been up all night. And I'm gonna sleep the whole 16 hours. And I'm gonna go see for myself. I'm gonna go see.
I'm gonna go see for myself. So for all the people who say that, like Ben Shapiro, I want to go see Elon Musk, I want to go see, notice where they go. They go to Israel. They didn't go to Gaza. Now, Tiffany, obviously, as you can imagine, has received a lot of pushback about this video and about some of her comments, which, again, like I said, is not the right time to be doing what she's doing. But she is now claiming that she's going to go to Gaza, too. But I don't know, man. I felt like that response came after she started to receive the pushback. So my thing is, again, the Michael Rappaports, the Ben Shapiros, the Elon Musk, and Elon basically got pressured by Zionists into doing this as well. They all went over there to see Israel. And of course, the Zionists are showing them, look at what Hamas did to us. Look at what they did. Look at what happened here. But none of those people have gone into Gaza. And the destruction that Hamas did in Israel is nothing compared to the destruction that Israel has done to Gaza. But for her to sit here and kind of sing along like, and I'm going to the Dead Sea, and I'm going to get me some, and this is not the time and place for that. This is not the time and place. And that's why I feel like she was put up to this.
I'm gonna go see all of it. I'm gonna ask questions, see with my own eyes. Because I don't believe everything. You know, social media be saying, I know a lot of stuff on social media be not true because, I didn't even open it. Yeah, I know a lot of stuff be on this social media not true because I see stuff people say about me and I live my life. I'm living my life and I'm like, that's not what I said.
Pretty typical Zionist propaganda here too as well, right? I know the things on social media. She's saying she knows those things are not true and yada, yada. That's the same thing that Zionist has been saying as well. They're calling it misinformation, yada, yada. You know, Tiffany, I ain't really hear you scream out about this type of, other than Hollywood. But when it comes to political situations, when it comes to foreign policy, I haven't seen you speak out in this way in reference to other issues about foreign policy or political news that's been happening in reference to, I don't know, I don't believe everything that I see on social media and da-da-da-da. And I'm just like, but when it comes to Israel, all of a sudden you question.
That's not true. So, before I get to speaking on stuff, because I've heard from people that live there on both sides of the gate. Now I'm gonna go see.
She said she heard from people who live there on both sides of the gate. So she acknowledges that Gaza is occupied. And who did she hear from in Gaza? Who did she hear from? Who did she hear from in Gaza? And when did this happen? Because what I have seen in Gaza, particularly recently, the Palestinian people are trying to get food that has been distributed from the United States, but they can't even get to the food because Israel is blocking the food from coming in.
Not champagne. Champagne, first of all, don't come in a cup like this. Damn. That's a little Caesar salad right there. Delicious.
And it's just a bad look too because she's drinking. Like that's the other thing. She's drinking when she's making these comments.
I want to go see. And then I'm going to tell y'all what I think. But I'm going to go see with my own eyes. Because what I saw online, I did not like. And I know a lot of people that have gone. So many people have gone. And they've come back alive. Come back fine. So I want to go see.
That's the dumbest statement she could have made. So many people have gone and they came back fine. They didn't go to Gaza, Tiffany. It's one thing to go to Tel Aviv. It's another thing to go to Gaza. Like, seriously? Child.
I'm gonna go see. And we gonna see what it is. And I'll show y'all some of it while I'm there. But I'm gonna talk to people. I wanna find out why is this happening? Why is this going down? Just like I went to Eritrea, which I will be back there. I'll be back there. I got my 2% too. Trying to figure out how to get it in my damn bank account.
I don't know if she was drunk during this conversation or what, but this is it's just so misplaced. I feel like this is not obviously very weird. And so obviously, you know, when she gets there, who is she going to talk to? She's going to talk to Israelis, right? Just like Michael Rappaport did, just like Elon Musk did, just like Ben Shapiro did. And she's like, I want to know what's going on. Why have you not researched any of the history, Tiffany, All you have to do is Google all the things that I played on this show multiple times about the history of Israel. Tiffany can do that too.
Some of y'all might not know this, but I'm a citizen in Eritrea, paying my taxes and all that. I got a little bank account out there, but can't put no money in it. Yes, I'm there, I guess. I gotta figure that part out.
So thank you. Shout out to Mint Press News for capturing that. That is the video that went viral that gave many people pause. And she actually did go to Tel Aviv and she actually performed there. There was something that she said here. And it's just, I mean, this is really buffoonery. Like I saw this and I was like, Tiffany, you really should. Let me make something very clear here, okay? Because I'm getting a little pissed. The fact that you standing up there on stage doing like stand-up comedy in Tel Aviv, while everybody in Tel Aviv, they're still going out to the clubs and getting their dance on. They're still going out partying. They're still going to the beaches. And people in Gaza, they can't even get the food that's been sent to them because the IDF is blocking the food. All the hospitals are gone. The culture, the history, everything's blown to shit. And you guys dancing and laughing around in Tel Aviv. It just is clown shit. Like it really is. Like how tone deaf can you be? You went over there to perform for people in Israel. I don't even care if she got the same religion or not. God damn it. It's called use your brain. So this is what she says here.
Deserve to get to be in your space. That's how I'm moving these days. You get hurt less that way. You might have less friends, but fuck it.
And I don't know if she's drunk here or not either. But what she said was, like I said, I don't know. She does not seem like the Tiffany she used to seem like. So Aviva shared this. Performing last night in Tel Aviv, Tiffany Haddish with a message to Israelis. Not everybody gets to be in your space. You may have less friends, but fuck it. The fuck do you mean, Tiffany? Not everybody gets to be in your space? Is that like a code for the Palestinian people? That they're not allowed to be in their space? Aren't you a black woman, Tiffany? How do you like think about segregation that happened here in the United States? Think about the Jim Crow laws, where white people could have said that same thing. Not everybody gets to be in our space. That's why you had separate sides of the town for black people, separate sides for white people. This is so like, what do you mean? Not everybody gets to be in your space. And this coming from the black woman. The black woman. Now, even the root came after. They said, what the hell? Is she joking? Tiffany Haddish is in trouble again over tone deaf video announcing Israel trip. So even the root came in. They trying to check her. Like, what the fuck? Here's an important piece of advice for celebrities. We don't need your opinions on every hot button issue. Honestly, we prefer it if you kept some things to yourself. Case in point, the current Israel-Gaza war has seen several celebrities find themselves in hot water due to controversial comments. The latest unexpected name to get caught up in the ongoing war is actress comedian Tiffany Haddish. So then they get into the video, which we already went through. Like, don't she look like she's drunk in this video? So they go through that. And then one of the things that they mention here, they point out how people responded. Fairy Queen said Tiffany Haddish is the definition of tone deaf. They go on here. Another person showed sympathy for the Haunted Mansion actress team, posting on X. Imagine being on Tiffany Haddish's PR team. It would be stressful as fuck. Like, it's just. And then another person posted this message. When she's at her best, she does things like producing Tiffany Haddish They Ready on Netflix, which features black women comedians. Some felt it revived their careers. When she's at her worst, she makes terrible choices. Yeah, I can say that too. But this part here, we are not here to judge Tiffany's commitment or connection to her faith. However, social media commentators seem to agree that this really isn't the time for any of this. And it's a little shocking that neither she nor her team seem to realize that, because they probably put her up to it. I wouldn't be surprised, again, if she was paid to come there. Paid to come there. But it wasn't just me. Candace Owens had some disagreements about this too. Now, I don't usually agree with Candace Owens, like ever. I only agree with her one time on this show, and that was the conversation that she had against Ben Shapiro when she was trying to say that what's happening in Gaza is a genocide. I agreed with her on that. But for the most part, I do not agree with Candace Owens. And then this is the second time I agree with her on this issue here with Tiffany. Let's get into this.
Tiffany Haddish angers fans with business class trip to Israel to, quote unquote, find a man and see war with her own eyes. Yeah, that is a lot to unpack. But before we get to the actual clip and what's going on with her and this trip to Israel, let's just back it up and discuss Tiffany Haddish in general, just as a celebrity, because it's really interesting to me how Hollywood basically has no standards for who they allow to be celebrities. They don't have to be remarkably talented, and a lot of them seem to be suffering with various afflictions. We've covered on this show the incredible story of Russell Brand when he was an addict and he was addicted to heroin, and when he was addicted to sex, the media loved him. He was everywhere. It was amazing. They love a broken person. Well, similarly, Tiffany Haddish, for whatever reason, we know how it works in Hollywood. You're either baptized by Taylor Swift or you're baptized by Beyonce. All you need is a picture with one of them, and that means this person is here. They are now an official A-lister. And that certainly seems to me to be the circumstance regarding Tiffany Haddish. She was at a party with Beyonce. The next thing you know, she was making the rounds on late night television, talking about her experience with Beyonce. And I guess apparently nobody really cared, or seems to care, that she definitely has some issues, and I'll run you through them. In January of 2022, she was arrested in Georgia on a charge of a DUI. Police also suspected that she was under the influence of marijuana. But essentially what happened here was she fell asleep at the wheel. She was so allegedly high or drunk that they basically found her on the side of the road. That was the first time it happened. But then again, at the end of last year, Tiffany Haddish was arrested for a second alleged DUI. The arrest came after Beverly Hills Police Department received a call at 5:45 a.m. that there was a woman unresponsive at the wheel again.
So something obviously has been happening with Tiffany. That's what I said. I mentioned the DUIs earlier, and then there's also that lawsuit that was against herself and Aries Spears about claiming that they were grooming children in this project that they were working on before. Now that lawsuit was dismissed, but Tiffany Haddish to me just seems to be a little bit off. There are just certain cues I feel like that you should be aware of and know of. And there's this thing called timing, like right time, right place. And obviously this is not the right time or the place for her to be saying what she's saying or doing what she's doing. It's just really weird.
It was Tiffany Haddish. Obviously, that means that she has some issues. I'm not even trying to fault her for it, but it's just interesting that Hollywood doesn't care. They're still like, no, this celebrity is going to be in your face. And by the way, something that was much more disturbing, her and another comedian, his name is Aries Spears, they were both sued after allegedly grooming and sexually abusing two minors. According to the lawsuit, the children were recruited to film several comedy skits and were asked to perform sexually suggestive content. Via her attorney, Tiffany said the lawsuit had no merit. She did also issue an apology, just to be fair, saying that the skit was off-colored. I don't know where that lawsuit is at. I'm just telling you that because, yeah, maybe not the greatest character that we have in Hollywood, but few of them are. That's kind of the point of Hollywood, right?
Rondo just said, Sabby, there's a new lawsuit alleging her and Aries still grooming children. And remember what I told you before about that segment that came from CBS News? They posted a segment, or it might have been CNN. They posted a segment talking about that Israel has become a haven for pedophiles. That they're basically just openly welcome there, and they're not trying to reject these people. But apparently, if they they make it to Israel, they are safe and protected there. It's just wild, man. This is too much for Sabby. This is too much.
They're always just kind of selling us debauchery. I am here today because my mother chose life, and you are here today because...
No, we moving on from your sponsorship. And then we'll get to this part right here where they get back to it. Okay.
On a public trip, and when I mean public, she's recording herself on this trip to educate herself regarding Israel, but also to get herself a man. I'm just going to show you a couple of clips from this. I don't know if it was a live that she was doing on Instagram as she was in business class seats. Take a look and a listen.
On my way to Tel Aviv, then to Jerusalem, then I'm going to the Dead Sea and go and get me some. Gonna have some fun, yeah, it's gonna be great. Then I'm gonna learn about the politics, hey. See, I feel like I can't believe everything I see on the internet. I can't believe everything everybody's saying to me on the internet. I need to go see for myself. I'm one of those people.
I'm uncomfortable. Are you uncomfortable? Does that seem weird to you at all? Trying to turn it into a rap song? Why? So black people are just going to be like, yeah, we're with it. Yeah, go my way to politics. On my way to politics. See what do? Like, what is that? What are you doing? Why are you doing that? It gets even more strange when she says what else she's going to do while she enters this war zone. Take a listen.
On my way to Israel. I'm sorry, Yamanika. I'm sorry, Yamanika. I'm going without you. I'm sorry. I'm going to go meet my future man out there. I'm out.
You're going to go meet your future man in Israel, a state right now that is blowing up Palestinian people? Like, who says that right now? Like, who just raises their hand and say, I'm going to go over there to go find me a man while they killing people? It just, again, read the room. Read the room. And then you filmed it. That's the other thing. Nobody probably would have known, even known about this trip if she didn't record herself and put it on Instagram. I feel like, I don't know if she's drunk in this video or not, but she's apparently drinking something. And people are saying it's just orange juice. Maybe, I don't know. She seemed a little buzzed. But like, why are you even thinking about this? You know, let me go to this country that's killing all these people, that's been oppressing all these people, that's been occupying these people. Let me go over there right now in the height of war and conflict where there's a genocide happening, and let me go find a man. Seriously?
Going to the Holy Land. I suggest you all do it.
Man, that's weird. I mean, I have a lot of questions personally. First and foremost, I think, are you sober? That doesn't look sober to me. Nothing you're doing, at least you're not sober in the mind, because why else would you be doing this? Also, may I ask why you are looking for a boyfriend in the middle of a war zone? Does that register to you as a normal thing to do? I just want to be very clear. This is what I mean when I say people are waking up to propaganda. Who wants to go visit a country at war? Does that pass the sniff test for anybody? Yeah, I definitely want to go visit this country while bombs are being dropped. That makes perfect sense. Why not visit it when they are not in the middle of a war? Wouldn't that make more sense? I've visited Israel, and no, they were not in the middle of a war, and it was still a very intimidating country to get into. I've described this experience, but because of so much conflict in the region, even going through the airport, right? I got pulled out twice, got questioned. There are people, IDF soldiers, that are just standing above, pointing guns down when you go through the airport.
You hear that, guys? And so she went there when obviously there was not a war going on. So imagine what it's going to be like now, like right now. This is insane. That's insane. I can't.
Waiting for something to happen. Didn't even feel great when it was not in the middle of a war. So could you imagine like what she's going to go through to get into the country? So who okayed this trip? It's my other question. It feels like you're going there because you've been told to go there, and it feels like it's propaganda. And so that is why people are understandably upset about this video, because they know that you are going there to make it look cool, to people. It doesn't feel authentic. I'll tell you one thing right now, the comments definitely passed the vibe check. This person wrote, if ignorant and dumb was a person. Another person wrote, does she even have 10 brain cells? I'd love to know. A third person wrote, the situation is heart-wrenching, resembling a scene from a horror movie with the tragic killing of thousands of Palestinians. Amidst this, she approaches the trip as a leisurely paid vacation, which I find utterly disheartening. I honestly, personally, if I could add on to that, just find it to be utterly disturbing. And as I said in my tweet, the propaganda just ain't landing the same. You don't get to just say, celebrities go out into the middle and tell us what we are supposed to think. Least of all, when this celebrity apparently has various afflictions. We're just not buying that anymore. She's no expert in anything. And I'm actually just proud of people for finally standing up to the BS.
So, like I said, usually I do not agree with Candace Owens, and don't get it twisted because Candace is playing her part too. Don't get it twisted. Like, she knows what she can say on the Daily Wire and get a pass, and she knows what she cannot say on the Daily Wire, right? So it is what it is. But these decisions from Tiffany Haddish over the past year, they've been very suspect, just weird. But like, this is not the time to take a leisurely trip to Israel, especially considering what's happening to the Palestinian people. This is not the time to go do that now. And what drives me crazy is the fact that she can do that, that people in Tel Aviv are just living life as normal. They have food, they have drink. And meanwhile, you guys, like, the IDF is actually killing people in Gaza, or they're starving them. So genocide doesn't necessarily mean that you're being shot and killed. It also means that they're purposefully starving the people and preventing food from coming in. But I'm always curious at people who come out of nowhere in Hollywood and all of a sudden get all these big opportunities, especially those that were comedians, because it takes comedians a long time to get to that point and to get movie roles. And some even question sometimes if Tiffany is really that funny. This woman here, she actually made a video about this. Is really funny. You got to hear this.
I have never so much as cracked a smile when Tiffany Haddish comes up on my screen. Only thing I've cracked is my back while looking for the remote to change the motherfucker. Personally, nothing about Tiffany Haddish has been funny because she's always pandered towards the white. She's always reminded me of those black comedians like King Batch or whatever the fuck his name, who actively seek validation from white laughs, you know, like bringing fried chicken to a red carpet event because you know that's feeding into the stereotype. Like, that's not funny, that's not charming, that is just literally you being a ooh ah ah, the thing that you are, okay? The thing that they see you as. So play into that role, ho. There's nothing that Tiffany Haddish could teach me. She couldn't punch her way out of a wet paper bag with scissors in her hands. Like, it's really giving this because that's what you are. Your commitment to your downfall, babes. I have never so much as cracked a smile when Tiffany Haddish comes up on my screen. Only thing I've cracked is my back while looking for the remote to change the motherfucker.
I'm sorry, that was kind of funny. Great point here, B. Yes, exactly. She came out of nowhere and frankly is mediocre. I always question, especially those that are comedians, because it is very difficult. And you'll hear from people that have been stand-up comedians for years before they even had the opportunity to get a TV spot or a movie role. Yeah, it almost makes me feel like she was kind of like a plant. Ree said, Tiffany never been funny like Amy Schumer. I agree with you. I don't think Amy Schumer is funny either. I don't know. Like, you know, like the Tiffany's, the Amy Schumer, the Kevin Harts. How you guys just come out of nowhere, man? How you come out of nowhere and you just get like big movie roles, and you guys know people that have been doing this for years before they could even get some type of a spot? Feels plantish. Feels plantish. Let's get to some of the comments here. Alexis says, is she going to Palestine? Denise says, thank you for this. If you still don't think Israel is evil, that's because you are evil too. F. Azim. Thank you for that. My comrade JB says she needs to be careful. She'll mess around and get sterilized like Ethiopian Jewish women. Oh, there it is. Thank you, Perry. Haddish's father is a Jew from Africa. Her presence brings up the fact that while Black Israelis are discriminated against, they still support Zionism. Talk that truth, Perry. Perry's been on it all night. Been on it all night. Isn't that crazy? Think about that. Thank you, Peter. She is about as sharp as a sack of wet mice. Thank you, Onika. That's why Common left her. She's got serious issues. That's right. I forgot she did date Common. Common's rapper slash actor, who I believe is dating Jennifer Hudson now. Shout out to Stephanie S for becoming a Sabby member. Let's give Stephanie a big whoop whoop. Thank you, Ricky. Tiffany is not an Ethiopian Jew. She is a paid American Jew. She don't give a shit about Palestinians. Thank you, your mom's favorite. She lives for white people and can't live without it. Oh, she lives for white approval and can't live without it. Yeah, that's what the other woman in the video was saying. Chillinaris, LMAO, Sabby. We're moving on from your sponsorship. Oh, yes. I don't show sponsorships on here. No. So I had to skip over that. We are not recommending products or services on this show. Thank you for the super chat, American Autopsy. I'm sorry, but it's rich. Candace finds this weird or uncomfortable, but is perfectly comfy destroying the images of Black men murdered by the state. Like I said, she playing her role too. Candace is playing her role too. She know what she can get away with on Daily Wire and what she can't. And shout out to New Beginning for the super sticker. Thank you so much. And I think there's a comment you have down there for me, Eric. It looks like a comment. Yeah, thank you. I think this may be from Rumble. Thank you, Goo81. Makes sense since Netanyahu said he would liberate Africa next. Plus, for those that say why I should care due to my reparations, that is a question. Thank you so much for that. I'm sorry, due to my reparations, that is a question to throw at Tiffany Haddish, The Rock, Mekhi Phifer, Ziggy Marley, LeBron, Floyd Mayweather, and others who are standing by supporting Israeli genocide. Ooh, this is a good one. And refuse to talk about social issues in the USA. Interesting. All right. We're moving on to the Max Blumenthal story. Of course, Max Blumenthal has found himself in situations to confront the State Department officials, or actually the ones that they push in front to take all the questions. And a lot of times they don't even want to answer the questions that you're asking. But I want to show you two different clips because a similar question, right? So the first question actually is to Anthony Blinken. Why is it that the U.S. government has a different version of definition of genocide when it comes to the Uyghurs in China versus when it comes to the Palestinian people in Gaza? So first, we're going to see Anthony Blinken's response to that. And he's very nervous in this video. And then we're going to dive into Max Blumenthal also asking a similar question to the State Department. I think this is a great comparison to make here. We'll have to remember with the Uyghurs, the U.S. government claimed that China had committed genocide against the Uyghur people. However, the State Department in China had confirmed that they actually could not prove that happened. They said they had no evidence that they committed genocide against the Uyghurs. Aaron Mate also covered this story a while back. He explained that there was no evidence. You can Google this yourself and see it also, that there was no evidence about this, right? However, what's happening to the Palestinian people in Gaza is happening right in front of our eyes. The whole world is able to see this, and the U.S. has a different response. So let's see how Anthony Blinken responds first, and then we'll get into the State Department official.
Mr. Secretary, the topic of genocide has been debated during this trip. I was wondering if you could give us a better sense of what you think about the topic. One of your first major remarks as Secretary of State was accusing Beijing of genocide. Why do you think China's treatment of the Uyghurs constitutes this crime and Israel's treatment of Palestinians does not? Also, any reaction to Netanyahu's post-war plan for Gaza calls for the establishment of a buffer zone inside Gaza and seems to contradict some of the principles that were laid out in Tokyo. And then finally, any response to Israel's latest purported plans for settlement expansion?
John, thank you very much. Let me make sure I cover everything that you raised. Look, on the genocide question, I think we've been very clear over many months and now many years about the Uyghurs, about Rohingya, and others. And we've laid out in some detail, in fact, I had the opportunity to lay out some detail when it came to the Rohingya, exactly why we see the genocide being perpetrated. Similarly, including very recently before the International Court, we had an opportunity, and others have had an opportunity to make clear why that is simply not the case when it comes to Gaza.
Notice how he seems to be stuttering, or not really stuttering, but stammering a little bit over his words. He seems to look a little bit uncertain and unsure. And he said that they laid out in detail what happened to the Uyghur people. If it was laid out in detail, you wouldn't need to explain it again. You wouldn't constantly be asked about this to explain it again. So I'll go ahead and tell you why they're doing what they're doing. The reason why they are quick to condemn what China has done, but not what Israel has done, is because the United States government is in bed with the Israeli lobby. They're not in bed with the Chinese lobby. So if you follow the money, you will see why. A lot of the politicians are bought. A lot of the politicians in Congress are in bed with the Israeli lobby. That's who they answer to instead of answering to you or me, their constituents. However, when it comes to China, they're looking for any little thing to go after China, just like they're looking for anything to go after Russia. These are countries that they see as a competitor to the United States. When you look at the financials, it does not lie. When you look at the economics, it does not lie. China has grown immensely, I would say, in the past decade, and is miles ahead of the United States when we talk about technology. They are miles ahead of us. They are ahead of us in the banking industry because they have most of the banks in the top 10. When you talk about Russia, they are also miles ahead of us when we talk about infrastructure, when we talk about public transportation. If you go to some of these other countries, you'll see their systems run a lot more smoothly. You know, my dad was stationed in South Korea. He showed us pictures of the public transit system in South Korea when he came back, just how clean and fast and nice and sleek it is, not like what we have here in the United States. These countries are seen as an economic competitor to the United States, and that is why the U.S. goes after them. Even if they have to start a coup, they'll do whatever they can to try to stop these competitors. However, when it comes to Israel, Israel has basically become an extension of the United States. You can say that the United Kingdom is like our spouse. No, we'll put that down. You can say the United Kingdom is like a sibling and Israel is our spouse. And Israel is the one that's the breadwinner. They're the ones that control a lot of what's happening politically in this country because of the Israeli lobby. This is exactly what JFK was afraid of. This is why he did not want Zionism to spread. This is why he didn't feel comfortable about Israel having nuclear weapons. But he's not going to tell you that.
And we've been very clear about the meritless nature of that particular charge. So I'm not going to rehearse the details here, but I think the record is very clear on that. Setting that aside, as you know, as we've spoken extensively about, we are determined to see the conflict in Gaza end as soon as possible in a way that ensures that October 7th can never happen again, but also that the suffering that Palestinians have endured doesn't happen again.
So let me go ahead and contradict something here. He says the suffering of the Palestinians doesn't happen again, but that started back in 1947. But Anthony Blinken is pretending like that just started now. It's been happening. You can't have it both ways. I want to be clear, people. You cannot have it both ways. You can't say Israel has a right to defend itself, and at the same time, you sit here saying, well, the Palestinian people, you know, they shouldn't have to endure the suffering. As long as you're arming Israel, the Palestinian people are going to suffer. We talked about this yesterday at the RBN Boston chapter meeting, these phrases, the Zionist phrases that are thrown your way and how you effectively respond to them. I'm working on a project about that because I think it's really important that you know how to take down these points, because it's the same points made over and over. So if someone tells you that Israel has a right to defend itself, you need to ask them, why is it that Gaza doesn't have a right to defend itself? The Palestinian people don't have an army. So you have one pocket called Gaza that is not allowed to defend themselves. And you're allowing their oppressor to have the weapons to defend theirself. What do you think is going to happen to the people who are being oppressed? Craziest shit I've ever heard.
In the first instance, we're focused on getting the hostages out, getting an extended humanitarian ceasefire, and building on that, even as we look toward the longer term and getting on a genuinely durable path to lasting peace and security for everyone concerned. With regard to the post-war Gaza plan that you referred to, look, I've seen the reports. I haven't actually seen the plan, so I want to reserve judgment until we actually see the details.
This is something they continue to do. All of a sudden, whenever you try to point out something that Israel is doing that is in the wrong, they always say they haven't seen it or they haven't had a chance to look at the details. He's seen it. Anybody on social media that's been following this has seen it. That's just one of the talking points that they give because they don't want to hold Israel responsible, particularly to the press. They don't want to hold Israel accountable. So they'll just say they haven't seen it.
Having said that, you know that there are certain basic principles that we set out many months ago that we feel are very important when it comes to Gaza's future, including that it cannot be a platform for terrorism. There should be no Israeli reoccupation of Gaza. The size of Gaza's territory should not be reduced. So we want to make sure that any plan that emerges is consistent with those principles. There are other principles, but those are three of the most important ones. At the same time, we have many countries in the region that are working together on a plan for post-conflict Gaza. I think that's very important, and I spent some time with some of our Arab partners, including recently on the margins of the G20, talking about that, just as we did when we were at the Munich Security Conference together.
So unless you stop Israel, none of those things matter. Israel is ignoring international law. They're ignoring the ICJ demands, International Court of Justice. Israel is doing whatever they want to do. So it doesn't matter what plan you came up with other Arab countries. As long as Israel is the one that is in power, the Palestinian people are not safe. Period. And you come up with all these plans and you sit down with all these world leaders. But this isn't just about Gaza, because in the meantime, Israel is still removing Palestinian people from their homes in the West Bank. So if they were serious about these plans and what Israel must do, they would stop the settlements in the West Bank from continuing. The U.S. hasn't done that. The UN has not done that. So we always have to remember, ladies and gentlemen, it is not just about Gaza. We cannot forget about the settlements, the ongoing settlements in the West Bank that continues.
It's important that we have, again, a plan which is absolutely necessary, but one also that's consistent with basic principles that I think many countries share about what has to be Gaza's future. Finally, I think you referred to the settlements. Well, look, we just saw another horrific terrorist attack, this in Mal Adumim. And my first thought is with the victims of that attack. And we will continue, to fully support Israel's right to security.
Do you see what I'm saying? You see, he tries to both sides. And I want to be very clear here. First of all, Antony Blinken, I sincerely hope you do not play poker. And if you do, I'm guessing you always lose. Dude does not have poker face. Okay. It is very obvious what is happening here. Antony Blinken is controlled. Joe Biden is controlled. Congress is controlled. All of these people are controlled by the Israeli lobby. You cannot sit here and say that we are upset about the settlements in the West Bank and we feel sorry for the victims. And then you turn around at the same time and you say that Israel security is important. Who is being displaced? The Palestinian people are. So when we talk about security, you need to be concerned about the security of the Palestinian people. Israel is secure. Israel has the Iron Dome, which the U.S. funds. Israel has weapons given to them by the United States. Israel gets $3.8 billion a year from the U.S. government. Israel is secure. So for me, it's just, you can't sit here and say you feel sorry for the victims. You don't feel sorry for those damn victims. Antony Blinken say, fuck them kids. You can't even look people in the eye anymore. That's why you got your head hanging down. All these people are bought. All these people are bought. It's such a hot mess.
To self-defense and to dealing with terrorism. On settlements, we've seen the reports, and I have to say we're disappointed in the announcement.
We are disappointed when it comes to the settlements, you guys. They're just they're disappointed. I want people to stop saying this right to defend yourself only applies to Israel, because it does not. It should not. And people like Antony Blinken are part of the problem. They have the right to security. They have the right to defend themselves. You don't hear them say this about any other group of people or state in the world. In the world. It's just, think about it. Especially in the United States. Those of you, if you're African American in this country, you'll never hear them say you got a right to defend yourself. You'll never hear it. Never. But when it comes to Israel, they got a right to defend themselves. They got the right to security. Nobody else is given this much leeway in the world.
It's been long-standing U.S. policy under Republican and Democratic administrations alike that new settlements are counterproductive to reaching an enduring peace. They're also inconsistent with international law. Our administration maintains a firm opposition to settlement expansion. And in our judgment, this only weakens, doesn't strengthen Israel's security.
So Max Blumenthal is going to ask a similar question, this time to the State Department. Because people need to hear this. Because the mask is off, ladies and gentlemen. They always bring this guy up here. You guys notice how, with the exception of Antony Blinken, most of the time they actually have someone who's a person of color to deliver the bad news. They put them out in the front, right? Let's go on.
And in March 2021, Secretary Blinken accused China of the crime of genocide for its alleged treatment of the Uyghur minority, but he didn't accuse them of killing on any mass scale or forcible transfer. Now we see with Israel's military assault on Gaza, something like every 200 people in the Gaza Strip has been eliminated. Over 4,000 children killed. The Ministry of Intelligence, as Sam pointed out, in Israel has published a blueprint for the forced transfer of the entire Palestinian population to Egypt. We have the intent to commit genocide expressed at the highest level of the Israeli government, including Netanyahu himself referring to the Palestinian population as Amalek, the biblical Amalek. So I wonder, when you're accusing one country of genocide without accusing them of mass killing, and then blocking ceasefires to enable another country's military assault, what metric are you using to determine genocide, or is this just political rhetoric?
It's certainly.
Pause here for a second. What metric are you using to determine genocide? So let's remember that is the question. And one thing I want to point out that Margaret Kimberly said so beautifully, which was, it's not about a person's individual definition of genocide. It's about the definition of genocide under international law. So keep that in mind when you hear his response. Listen to this.
Not political rhetoric. The department, and I talked a little bit about this yesterday, we have a rigorous process in place for evaluating whether something constitutes as genocide or not. And that.
Pause right here. So you heard what I just told you, right? So you see he's already lying. It applies to the definition of genocide under international law. And he is telling you they have a rigorous process to decide if something is genocide or not. What process? What did the ICJ demand that Israel do? They demanded that Israel tried to do whatever they can to preserve civilian casualty and prevent genocide of the Palestinian people. What rigorous process?
That is true in any country that that situation might be being looked at. That is not a term that we have assessed pertains to this current conflict. We are, of course, monitoring the evolving situation and are examining facts as they develop. This continues to be an incredibly challenging and fraught situation, but it's also...
Pause. So I'm going to show you some of the talking points that they use over and over again when it's a controversial subject and they don't want to tell you the truth. Okay. So one of the things that he said, he mentioned the rigorous process, right? Then he said we have to examine information. Okay. This has been going on for months. When they say, a lot of times when they tell you they have to examine the information that is coming in, they've already seen the information. The information has already been examined. That's just a talking point that they give you to continue to stall what is happening. They continue to stall actually making any type of a decision on their end. That's one of those tactics that they use. It's no different from when your representatives tell you, yes, we looked at that bill and that bill is actually sent to a study. Oftentimes there's no actual study happening with the damn bill. That's just a place where bills go to die. They ain't studying that damn bill. Half the times you've seen how these representatives will just sign a 4,000-page bill and they didn't even read half of it. So they're going to tell you ain't no damn study. So when he sits up here and he tells you we just have to examine the information, how many times has this guy said this? They've already examined the information, guys. This is a stonewall tactic. So keep that in mind. And then this piece that he said here, one second.
Examining facts as they develop. This continues to be an incredibly challenging and fraught situation, but it's also
challenging. That's the other thing they'll add. They'll tell you that it's challenging, it's complex, it's complicated. Again, those are just words that they use to continue to delay doing what they're supposed to do, which is calling for the ceasefire and stop aiding Israel.
Important to remember that Hamas bears responsibility for sparking this war. They have brought this project war to Gaza.
Okay, well, President.
Okay. And so then what do? They bring it back to it all started on October 7th. This is why I told you earlier tonight, it's important to know about the history so that you understand why Hamas even formed in the first damn place. So people have to understand that. So now it's like, let's draw your attention back onto Hamas. Okay, so because of Hamas, that gives Israel the right to destroy an entire population of people? Under international law, no. Under the Geneva Convention, no. According to the ICJ, no. So Max comes in with more questions here.
They have brought this project war to Gaza.
Okay, well, President Biden has accused the Russian government of genocide for its actions in Ukraine, where in 2 years it has killed as many civilians as Israel has killed in 1 month in the Gaza Strip. So how do you account for that disparity where you're assisting one country and accusing the other of genocide when the country you're assisting has systematically killed so many more people in 1 month.
Those circumstances are totally and completely not the same. And to make a comparison, like,
they're totally and completely not the same. You know why they're totally and completely not the same? Because one country is Russia, and the US government, the US politicians are not in bed with the Russian lobby, and the other one is Israel, and they are in bed with the Israeli lobby. That's the two different thing there, okay? It's the damn country, people. Don't listen to this guy. It's the damn country. It's Russia bad, China bad. Israel has a right to defend itself. Someone should make a t-shirt that says that. The US says Russia bad, China bad, but Israel has a right to defend itself.
That candidly is incredibly inappropriate. We have been, please don't interrupt me. We have been, have raised directly with the Israeli government about the need to distinguish between Hamas terrorists and Palestinian civilians. This is something that the secretary has raised directly on his travels. We even laid out.
See, he's getting nervous too. We've told them to distinguish between Hamas and the civilians. Okay. So you see these talking points that they give? They've seen the same videos that you and I have seen on social media, guys. They know what Israel is doing. This guy standing here with these glasses on knows what Israel is doing. All these people are puppets. All these people are puppets. They know damn well, oh, I would love to be a fly on that wall behind closed doors. Love to be a fly on that wall. You said it, outside Steelers fan. Why am I paying taxes again? That's a good damn question. That is a good damn question. Because I don't know about you guys, but I didn't ask for my tax dollars, or we call them federal dollars, to go to Israel. Something to think about there.
Out that we believe that there are commitments that can be made additionally on dealing with protecting civilian life more effectively. And we're watching very closely to make sure that happens.
But you referred to Palestinians.
Now, let me go ahead and point out the gotcha. Now, earlier, he told you they have to examine the information. But just now, he told you they are watching very closely to make sure that happens. But I thought you had to examine the information. What'd I tell you guys? What'd I tell you? They tell on themselves. You just got to listen closely and you'll see that they tell on themselves. What is there you need to examine if you're telling us that you're watching the situation very closely? And if you're watching the situation very closely, that means you know exactly what is happening to those people. I can't. And Max comes in with a follow-up question here as well.
But you referred to Palestinian civilians as human shields. Doesn't that blur the distinction between civilians and militants?
I am not. We have not referred to Palestinian civilians as human shields. We have said that Hamas is using Palestinian civilians as human shields. That is not hyperbole. That is something that we have seen Hamas do as they continue to integrate themselves into key civilian infrastructure across Gaza.
Wouldn't that be?
Wait, you've actually seen them do this? But I thought you had to examine the information. I thought you needed more details.
Blurring the distinction between civilians and combatants. If you say Hamas is using civilians as human shields, wouldn't that be in some ways justifying the killing of civilians because they happen to be in the way, in their homes?
There is no one in this administration that is justifying killing of civilians. Any civilian life loss is incredibly troubling, heartbreaking to us. Any number above 0 is deeply troubling to us. What we are doing is we are working with our Israeli partners to ensure that steps can be taken to minimize the impact on civilian life.
But I thought you had to examine it. If Israel was not in the wrong, And if they're not committing a genocide against the Palestinian people, why do you need to work with them to minimize the impact against Palestinian lives? I thought you have to examine this information. They sent fake Sagar in to do the job. They send this guy in to do the job. Like, I don't know how these people go to sleep at night. I really don't.
Incredibly troubling, heartbreaking to us. Any number above 0 is deeply troubling to us. What we are doing is we are working with our Israeli partners to ensure that steps can be taken to minimize the impact on civilian life. And we also have believe that there is a moral imperative, there is a strategic imperative to take steps to minimize loss of civilian life. I'm going to work through. I've answered like 4 of your questions. You could.
Strategic imperative, right? Strategic imperative. Let me show you something, guys. Here's an Israeli actress. I want you to hear what she says about Palestinian people, because here's the thing. Like I told you, the same way I've seen these videos, they've seen these videos as well. The State Department knows exactly what Israel is doing. Listen to how this woman refers to Palestinian people.
צופית, עכשיו ברצינות, נושא החטופים ממש בוער בך.
זה בוער בי כמו שזה בוער בכולם, זה מצריף אותי, זה מצמית אותי, זה נורא, פשוט נורא בעיניי, אבל אני נורא מעריכה את זה, שהצליחו להחזיר את מה שהחזירו בחודש וחצי, זה לא מובן מאליו הדבר הזה. זה באמת לא מובן מאליו.
ברור, אני חושב שאנשים מתבלבלים, אנחנו בסוף מתעסקים עם מחבלים.
See this? After all, we're dealing with terrorist devils. Listen to this.
שטן.
עם חלאות המין האנוש.
With the scum of the earth, for God's sakes. Liars, whiners. You see what how they talk about them? This is how they see the Palestinian people. The scum of the earth.
בכיינים. זה פשוט מדהים.
לוזרים, מסריחים.
Disgusting, stanky losers. They walk with flip-flops, repulsive. The fuck is wrong with wearing flip-flops? You see this? Not just Islamophobic, not just racist, but also elitist. This is how they feel about them.
עם כפכפים, באים דוחים, באמת, אשכרה דוחים.
Really repulsive people.
בהחלט,
אין שום דבר אנושי.
You hear him? Definitely, I agree. She said there's nothing human about it. You see how they refer to them as animals?
בדבר הזה. מדהים, אבל איך העולם כאילו מצליח לא לראות את זה.
איך את מסבירה את זה? כאילו מה, אנשים אינטליגנטים.
It's amazing the world is not able to see it, intelligent people in the world, because we see right through you. Because we see the same thing that you claim that the Palestinian people are doing. Usually, Israel is doing those things. It's you doing those things.
נמצאים בעולם.
אני לא יודעת להסביר את זה, אני רק יכולה להסביר לך שאני חושבת שכל המדינה וכל, בכלל, לא יודעת אם כולם, לא אדבר בהכללה, אני אדבר עליי, אבל הזעזוע והשינוי המטורף, אני ב7 באוקטובר, גם לי רצחו משהו, רצחו איזה חלק הומניטרי במוח, חמלה שהיא גורפת כזאת, כולנו בני אדם.
Yeah, she definitely an actress.
לא, לא. אנשים הם פרי החינוך שהם גדלים עליו, ואם מגדלים אותך כמו שרת.
People are the fruit of the education they're raised on, and if they raise you like a vermin, that's what you become. You see how she referring to the Palestinian people as rodents? How is this any different to the way that Black people have been treated? How is this any different?
זה מה שאתה נהיה, שרץ ביבים.
A gutter vermin, she said.
אנס מגעיל.
Here we go with the disgusting, like rapist thing, a human that is filth, son of filth. Again, where are pedophiles hiding out in again? Israel. Israel.
בן אדם תינופת בין תינופת. נהיה לי משהו כל כך קשה. החלק השמאלני שלי, so called.
הוא עוד קיים?
לא. הוא קיים בדברים אחרים, אני בן אדם הומני, אבל לא, הוא לא.
So she's saying the leftist side of her, it's hard to reckon with, I guess.
הוא לא קיים ככה. הוא לא קיים ככה, ועוד יותר מעצבנים אותי. עניי עירי, מה שנקרא. אלה שעוד מחזיקים בזה בכוח.
כן, אני חייב לציין שאני רואה כרגע את השלטים ואת ההפגנות של אנשים
I see the signs and demonstrations of people in support of Gaza.
בעזה עכשיו, ברגעים אלה, זה מוציא אותי.
לא, זה באמת זה מעצבן.
She said, no, it really annoys me. See, what you have that has been established is another form of supremacy. And this time, the supremacy is not with Nazi Germany, it's with Israel.
וזה גם לא רגיש. אתה יודע, אחד הדברים שכן קראו לי...
Bringing it back to October 7th. You know, one of the things that did happen to me on October 7th. See, this is all, man, the propaganda is so deep.
מה-7 באוקטובר, בא לי כל היום ללכת ברחוב ולנשק ישראלים. נהייתי מאוד 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 ישראלית, מאוד יותר יהודייה.
פתאום מרגישים את האיחוד הזה, את כולנו יהודים, כולנו...
She said after October 7th, suddenly we feel this unity.
כולנו ישראלים נלחמים ביחד.
גם לא בא לי לנסוע לשום מקום.
She said, I don't feel like traveling anywhere except for work. I don't feel like it.
לעבודה, לא בא לי. בא לי להיות פה, אני כל היום בזירות.
I feel like being here. I'm in various places of events every day.
אני כל היום מסתובבת בזירות, ואני מגיעה לעזה, ואני מגיעה...
Walking around places every day, and I get to Gaza, and I get to this, and I get to that.
אני מגיעה לכל המקומות, אני כל היום בעשייה.
I get to all places. I'm working every day. That's exactly how they feel. That's, and by the way, it's not everybody, right? It's not everyone in Israel. And some people have been like speaking up and trying to fight back. There are people protesting in Tel Aviv as well, talking about bring the hostages back. We want to talk about the hostages. Hamas offered a ceasefire again to exchange the hostages. And Netanyahu said no. It was never about the hostages. I've been saying that from day one. Let me get to some of these comments here, but it's wild and it's crazy. But for those of you who have not seen the tweet, I do want to share this with you because pull this up because I'm working on something that I do want to show you guys. I'm making a list of all of these talking points. Here, I'll show you here, and then I'll bring up the super chats. I'm making a list of these talking points, and I'm working on a project because it's very important that people understand how to combat this. So I tweeted this and I said, what Zionist talking points have you heard the most? I'm working on a project about this. Let me know. And I've received a number of responses. Most of them are repetitive, right? So, but that's okay. I figured that would happen because what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to put this all together, and I am going to create proper responses for those talking points. Because one of the things that I have noticed, and you guys can tell me if you've noticed this as well, I feel like we have to know how to effectively push back on those talking points. And one of the ways that you do that is by knowing the history. That's why I went through the history first thing of this show. 2, one of the most easiest pushbacks that you can give when Zionists say, if you're supporting the Palestinian people, you're anti-Semitic, is this: Palestinians are Semites. And I've watched a number of debates that have happened, and I've seen people like for Israel saying, oh, you're anti-Semitic, that kind of thing. And nobody is pushing back with that phrase that Palestinians are Semites. That is one of the most powerful phrases that you can use, because under the definition of Semites, that includes people who are Arab speaking people. That includes Palestinian people. Semites are not just people who are Jewish. So you have to know how to push back on these talking points. And that is how you begin to destroy the Zionist narrative. But if you don't know how to push back on it, this will continue to be an issue. But that's one of the things that all of us can do, right? Thank you for the super sticker. FAR says super stats. Thank you, Peter. If President, I would make lobbying illegal. Fine all past politicians who received money, half of what they got, and jail lobbyists day one. Yeah, I think lobbying should be illegal. Thank you for the super chat, John. The U.S. gives Israel and Egypt the right to control access to the Red Sea for Western imperialism. Follow the money and weapons. Well said there, John. It's a good point. And thank you, Roger. Defend yourselves without our money. And thank you for the super sticker, Mood Z. Thank you. And I'll take that comment on Rockfin, Eric. And then we will skidoo. Thank you for the tip on Rockfin, Roger. Tiffany, the epitome of bad decisions. The same woman who, when interviewing Beyonce at a gala awards affair, she pulled a plastic bag out of her purse and then pulled out a piece of fried chicken, bit down on it and started crunching. She should have brought some of that chicken for the rest of Gaza. Yeah, she's cringe, man. And thank you for the tip, JVB. Max Blumenthal is a person of principle, a rare thing these days. Thank you so much for that. All right, guys. That is pretty much it for me. I will finish main ballot initiatives on Tuesday evening because I'm looking at the time. I went a little bit over time. If you haven't had a chance to do so, go ahead and like the stream. If you're new, don't forget to like, sub, and share. And I will be back Tuesday evening live, guys. That's it. Peace out. Have a good night. Keep up the fight.